Hey, the world's a lot different now than when I started practicing law more than 25 years ago. We're a much more mobile society, and we get a lot of questions these days about, I was married in North Carolina, but can I get divorced there? Or, I now live in North Carolina, but I was married somewhere else, where do I file? Or even, hey, my spouse doesn't live here in North Carolina, but I do. What do I do? So, I'm Jenny Bradley. You probably figured out by now I'm in North Carolina. Our team here at Triangle Smart Divorce can represent you in many counties of our state, but we need to be sure that you're in the right county, because filing in the wrong place can cost you time, money, and energy. Just because you live in North Carolina today doesn't mean North Carolina is the right state to file for divorce. And when I'm using divorce in this video, I'm talking about just the divorce itself, the piece of paper that says you're no longer married to your spouse. I'm not talking about property, not talking about custody, I'm not talking about child support, not talking about alimony, just the divorce itself. Where you live today does affect where you can file, but it's not the be-all end-all, because North Carolina has two very specific requirements. One is you have to have been separated for a year and a day. That means separate roofs, separate addresses, separate mailing addresses, and not just for convenience because somebody's working out of state. Truly because one person wants to be separated and it was their intent to be separated. Now, they didn't have to declare this intent to anyone. They can just have it in their own head and say, yay, I'm separated. That's strange too, but nonetheless, that's our law. You have to be separated for a year and a day before you can file for divorce in North Carolina. But also, one of the two spouses has to have lived here for 6 months before they file the lawsuit for divorce. So, quick example. If you and your spouse lived in Georgia, maybe you were separated for a year while you were in Georgia, and you've now moved to North Carolina, but you've only been here for a month. You're not going to be able to file for divorce in North Carolina because neither of you have lived here for more than 6 months, even though you have met the 1-year requirement. So, what I'm saying is where you live now matters, but you also have to meet the requirements of each state to decide if that's where you need to file. Perhaps you can still file in Georgia if your person lives there, if your spouse lives there still. And if they don't, if they've recently moved somewhere too and they don't qualify to get divorced in Georgia and you don't qualify to get divorced in North Carolina, you might be stuck until you meet the time requirements. It doesn't matter where you were married. It matters where you are when it's time to file for the divorce and what that state's requirements are about being eligible. What if you and your spouse live in different counties? Well, that can be even more complicated than different states. So let's talk about different states first. Again, there's some residency requirements about when you can file for certain things in North Carolina and when you cannot file for certain things in North Carolina. On divorce, it's pretty straightforward. You have to have lived here for 6 months, you have to have been separated for more than a year and a day, then you can file here. Or your spouse has to live here if you don't. Don't know why you would file here if you weren't the one living here. Seems like it'd be really inconvenient to go to another state to get your divorce. But anyway, you can do that if you want. Custody, child support, other things, really much more complicated if you live in separate states because there are federal rules that we adopted that affect where multi-state cases are done so that there's consistency between the states and there is not a chance for inconsistent rulings, orders, judgments, etc. So often, the right place to file for custody is where the child has resided for the last 6 months before the lawsuit is filed. Often, the right place to file for child support is where the person who's paying child support lives because you want it to be enforced there. What good would a North Carolina order do you in California? You want a California order so that California courts can enforce it and they can withhold wages or suspend tax refunds and do other things. Spousal support, similar, very similar. You would generally want that done where it's going to be able to be enforced against the person that's filing for support. In division of property, or what we call equitable distribution, usually you're going to want that in the state where most of the property is located because, again, the enforcement rules. But that's all talking about court. Remember, in North Carolina, we're a little weird sometimes. Okay, more times than not lately. But you can settle a lot of things by agreement. And the agreement can be done here in North Carolina with North Carolina lawyers as long as one of you is a North Carolina citizen, resident. You live here. So That's something to think about. It's not as confusing about where to file if you don't have anything to file and you're settling everything by agreement. Okay, that comes up a fair amount because we are a pretty transient society these days, and people are moving across the country for jobs or to go back home and take care of family or to go live with family when they separate to save some money. But what happens more often than not is county changes. Our main office is here in Wake County, North Carolina. Sometimes people go to the borders. They go to Johnson County, they go to Durham County, they might go north and go to Franklin County, might go south and might go to Lee County or something. People live on the outside borders of Wake County. So the question we get a lot is, what county do I file in? Well, again, if it's just divorce, it's pretty straightforward. You can file in the county in which either spouse resides. More confusing when you get to child custody, because our laws talk about what state is proper, and then when they go to county, they say, well, the county where the child resides or a parent resides, because that's where the evidence is going to be. So maybe you lived in Wake County together, and now somebody lives in Orange County. Which county should you file for custody in? And the honest answer is, a lot of times it's going to depend upon what law firm you pick. Because if your law firm's in Orange County, traditionally they're going to want to pick Orange County because they're very familiar with the judges and the other lawyers and the mediators and everyone in that county. And if you hire a Wake County lawyer, traditionally they're going to want to file in Wake County because they're very familiar with the Wake County lawyers and the Wake County mediators and the Wake County judges and judges' preferences. And you want someone who's familiar with the county you're filing in because that can help you get the best results when they know the lay of the land. But really, it should be about where is most of the evidence located. Is it in Wake County? Is it in Orange County? Is it both? Is it a race to the courthouse to see where you get first? Sometimes it can be, and it can be confusing. Sometimes we're successful in changing counties, putting in a motion to change venue and saying, hey, that's not right. More evidence is over here in Wake County, or more evidence is over here in Orange County. But we're not always successful with that. So sometimes being the first to file does have advantages because you get to pick which court you're playing in. Again, if you're settling things and you're staying outside of the courtroom, then none of this really matters because it's an agreement and it's good throughout the whole state. It doesn't matter where you are, but it can, because not always do agreements end up not going to court. Sometimes they fail. Sometimes there's enforcement. Sometimes there's other issues. Sometimes you want your agreement to be a court order, and it matters where that is because it matters when you go to enforce it. So I encourage you to meet early with a lawyer and talk about your concerns and the multi-counties that might be in play or the multiple states that might be in play so we can help you set a smart strategy about what makes the most sense for you and your family moving forward. And we hope you don't have to go to court. Yes, I'm a lawyer saying that. I hope you don't have to go to court. But if you do, then it's important that you had a plan and you had the best place for it. Our laws in North Carolina are the same throughout the state, but our application of them is very, very different. We go to seminars and we have judge panels from the eastern part of the state, from the middle part of the state, from the western part of the state, give them the exact same facts, and they come out wildly different on alimony by way of example. And you're scratching your head going, this doesn't make sense. It's the same rules. It's the same laws. Why does it matter? Why is there so much difference? Because it's the application of those rules and the fact that our alimony statute, by way of example, says something like a fair and equitable award based on these factors. You know what that means? That means the judge gets to hear the evidence and apply the factors however they think that they're important and they think is fair. It's another reason we're a big fan about staying out of court, because subjectivity of judges can really affect your case and can vary not only from county to county, but honest, from judge to judge, even within the same county. So you want to take some of the potential pitfalls and some of the uncertainty out of your life, stay out of court. But if you have to be in court, be sure you're filing in the place that makes the most sense for you. You might live in North Carolina and have called our office and been told, sorry, we don't go to that county. And you might be thinking, why not? I mean, you're a North Carolina lawyer. Aren't the laws the same? Can't you go anywhere across the state and practice law? And the technical answer is yes, our license is good throughout the entire state. All of us here are licensed to practice in the whole state of North Carolina. But it's not a smart decision to have a lawyer work for you that doesn't regularly go to that county. There's a couple of reasons for that. One, it's true. There's some home cooking in family law. The people who know the judges, who know local counsel, who know the mediators, they're going to get better results typically than a stranger. I'm of a certain age that I remember my cousin Vinny. You might not. But He comes down and he tries this case in the rural South. They don't even understand his accent. They don't understand what he's doing. He puts people on the stand. They can't figure out how he's cross-examining people. He's getting the hardest time. Did he ultimately win? He did. But did it cost his clients a ton of money and a ton of heartache? And was Ralph Macchio sitting there with his head in his hands sometimes going, what have I done by having this guy come down and represent me? Yes, he was. And you don't want that stress. You don't want that anxiety. Divorce is stressful enough. You don't need that in your life. What you need is a lawyer that goes to the county that you need the best representation in. And we're going to tell you that. Like, we're in the middle of the state. We're in Raleigh. We're not going to go to Charlotte. Charlotte has its own ways of doing things. Asheville has their own ways of doing things. Wilmington has their own ways of doing things. It's not smart to hire us to go to these places where we have to learn the lay of the land and the local preferences and the proclivities and, frankly, the subjective biases of the judges. Sure, we can call our friends and we can ask, but unless you've actually been in it and experienced it, you don't know it the same. So that's why we don't go to counties outside the ones that we are comfortable in, we have experience in, and we have worked in before. Because we know the local appraisers, we know the local therapist, we know people that can help you, and we know when somebody is trying to home cook us. And it's not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling at all, and it's a feeling we don't want you to have, and we don't want you to suffer because of it. So we focus on the areas around us, the ones in our contiguous counties and close thereby, so that we can get the best results we can get for clients by not having a local bias be against them.